Susanka, architect and author of the Not So Big House series, and I'm here at my Not So Big Showhouse in Libertyville, Illinois, to show you a little bit more about the progress that's happened in the months since I've been here. What I want to do today is to take you through some of the details related to trim and how they're getting applied in this house. If you look around right now, the home looks very contemporary because it doesn't have any trim up, but it does have all the ceiling height variety that we talked about in the last video and that really start to define one space from another. There's a lot of trim that we are thinking about and we're starting to lay out. All of that trim work had to be thought through in drawings first, and so you're now going to be able to see how those drawings come to play in the execution of the final house. And then we're also going to take a look at some of those same kinds of details in terms of the tile work in the bathrooms. We're also going to look at the stairway, which has had a lot of work on it since the last video clip, and you'll be able to see how it's starting to all pull together. These are the kinds of things that can really make a house feel like home. What you've probably noticed as you're looking at this house is that there are a number of dropped ceilings, or what architects and builders call soffits. Those define one space from another and give a lot of articulation to the different rooms. What we're going to be doing over the next few weeks is adding trim lines that indicate where one space stops and the next one starts. We've got a wide white trim band that runs along the top of all the windows and doors, and then above that on the surface of the soffit we've got a cherry line just on this main level that really adds a little bit more distinction. So it adds a character to this main space. So this trim band, which is a 5¼ inch piece of trim, is what runs at the top of all the windows and doors. What we do is we take the tallest door in the house, which in this case is the front door and the window height, and we tie the line around to that height. With the interior doors, they're shorter. They're 6'8". And so instead of making the trim line jog, which wouldn't look good at all, we run the vertical jam trim up to that higher band, and then we add a filler strip right here. This will be painted white, just like the door and the trim will be at the end. But it ties everything together without you having to go through major contortions in order to make it all work. So here in the kitchen, you can see how we start to lay out the trim. This has all been thought through in drawings first, but now I'm going through with the carpenter and showing him how I want these rendered exactly. If you look at these two pieces of trim up on the soffits, you can see the two different lines and how they're going to be running around this kitchen. The white line will be moving in and around the top of the upper cabinets, while the cherry line will continue around that continuous soffit that goes around the room. And so we're just figuring out where the various heights are so that they all time out throughout the house. You can see in the window, the location of the window and the trim line. This is where the highest part of the band is, and so that's what sets our trim line. Now there's another detail related to that cherry trim line, which I use a lot in my houses, and which I wrote actually about quite some detail in the Not So Big House and also inside the Not So Big House. This is a trellis, and it will create a sort of ceiling that's see-through. So there will be hanging lights that will be right where I'm standing right now that will penetrate through that ceiling trellis and give good lighting for the work surface and the sink, which will be right here. So we'll see that in the next video so that you can take a look at how it all works together. But this is the key part of making sure that everybody understands what's happening. What I know is that even if I've drawn something, if I don't walk the carpenter through carefully, things can get built differently than what I was planning. So this is a very, very important construction visit for me, and it makes sure all those details come out just the way that I want them. Now let's take a look at the living room, where we've got the cherry band in a different resolution. Here in the living room, we can see how the cherry trim, the upper line, is being used in another way. We're using it as a cove light strip. So behind the trim line itself is a little piece of 2x2 that will have set upon it an LED light strip, and it will actually go all the way around the living room. So this will give the living room itself a warm glow. The ceiling will be lit from below, so it becomes a big reflecting surface, and it'll add lots and lots of character. Oftentimes people ask me, well, how do you do that? How do you create that cove? And there's a lot of different ways of doing it. But here, you'll see that we've actually made the cherry strip both give it some dimension at the base, as well as in the vertical dimension, so that it's a little basic L shape that will run all the way around the room. The other part about lighting strips is that you've got to somewhere either hide the plug or the connecting wire. And we've got a transformer in this case that we will be hiding in the soffit. So all in all, in this main level, the main 3 living spaces have that cherry trim, and it adds that special touch to the more, we can say, formal spaces, more lived-in spaces every day, that just give it that special upgrade without you having to use natural wood trim everywhere, which can save a lot of money. So let's take a look now at how we're using the white trim details on the upper level. Here on the second floor, we only have the wide white trim band, which happens below the soffit lines. So you can see on both sides of me the before and the after, essentially, of that trim line. And then if you follow the trim into the window alcove, the window seat, or into the bed alcove, you'll see that it goes underneath those soffits. We could, in addition, have had the cherry trim if we wanted, but in this case, because we've only got 8-foot ceilings here, we decided not to, so that it really accentuates the height, which is what a trim band can do. When you see this in the next iteration, you'll see that the paint color below that white trim line is a different color than above in the ceiling. And that's one of the key tricks to making a lower ceiling feel taller. It's why it's possible to make an 8-foot ceilinged room actually feel taller than it actually is. So we'll take a look also at the kids' bedrooms just to see how they're being laid out. They're not as far along as this, and we're trying to figure out some little special details that will make it all flow together. So here in one of the kids' bedrooms, we also have a window seat, but we had a challenge in that the width of space between the top of the window and the bottom of the soffit is not quite the 5 1/4. So the trick here is to make the trim line in this room that height. And so the chalk line tells the carpenter where the base of his trim is going to fall. They lay out that chalk line before the room is trimmed, just to make sure that there are no other problems that are unforeseen. You may be wondering, incidentally, why the drywall is beaten around the window. It's because that allows the trim to actually lie flush against the window rather than be elevated a little bit. So I think you've got a sense of how the headband trim works above windows and doors. But there's one other place that I add a trim line, and that's at a wainscot height. I use this in bathrooms, and we can probably see it most easily in the kids' bath. So let's take a look at that. What I typically do is take a trim band right at the top of the countertop height in a bathroom, and I'll run that line all the way around the room in trim. But I also do the same thing through the shower or tub area, and you can see here the continuous band that just ties the room together. What I'll do when the trim is on the wall is then paint the area below that line a darker color. It sort of grounds the room. These are such small rooms typically. It gives a lot more character, and it just adds that special something. So you'll see that detail in this house. Next time we come, when the cabinetry is in, you'll be able to see how it all ties together. So the other major change that's happened since the last time I was here is the stairway. We've now got railings and balusters, and you can start to see the character of this space. What you couldn't see last time, because this space was filled with scaffolding, is that this is really a light shaft. It brings light from the north and from the south down deep into the center of the home. So we'll see more of those details next time, but you can start to feel what a cool space this is going to be. And I think if you look at these images, you'll see the space is such a contrast in volume to the other rooms in the house. It's contrast that really makes a house vital and that makes it sing. So I hope you'll tune in again and see it in a month when I come to visit. And if you'd like more information, you can visit schoolstreetlibertyville.com or notsobighouse.com. And there's lots more to look at. Thanks so much.